Hello, Mavericks. This is Rob Reinhold. It is September 8th. Cannot believe we are already through the summer and into the fall. But let's get started here. As far as today goes, it's a pretty boring day. As you can see here, when we take a look at all the numbers, we see that the Dow Jones was up about 0.2%. The S&P NASDAQ up about the same. Russell a little bit more. Oil up a little bit. Gold down a little bit. It was a pretty quiet, tame day. And really, this day started out where we opened up, we sold off, and then we rallied, and then we sold off. And we spent most of the time right around slightly positive, and then at the end of the day, we got a little pop for about 0.3, 0.4%. But overall, this is a pretty tame day. There was not a ton of market news today, but we did get the news that Queen Elizabeth in the UK passed away at the ripe old age of 96. So I'm sure there's going to be lots on TV with tributes to her, and it's very sad to see her go. We also had jobless claims, 222,000. That is a really low number, which is really positive for the economy. This is a very strong reading of payrolls and of unemployment. And then we got interest rates rise a little bit on the day, and we now see mortgage rates at 2008 highs. So look, I'm not saying doom and gloom for real estate, but this is another thing that the market is worried about it slowing down. So let's take a look at our charts here. These are nice solid grain candles that we have bounced off in this area of support. So we had a couple tests of this support area at 390. We had one last Thursday, we had one Friday, we had one again on Tuesday, and then you can see Wednesday, Thursday, we've got a nice little bounce here. So look, this is a nice bounce off of a pretty big fall from 420 down to 390. That is about a 6% fall. We bounced back up about 2.5% of this, and you can see we're running headlong into resistance, where we saw resistance the last time we got up beneath these levels. Twice it hit up against that 50-day moving average and came right down. So I think there's going to be a test here on the 50-day moving average. If we go over to the NASDAQ, we can see that the NASDAQ is doing a lot worse than the S&P. And we talked about this. Higher interest rates is going to drag down on high tech a little bit more than everything else. As you can see, we found our support level somewhere in this area. And look, we're having a little bit of a bounce. Nothing has really changed technically. This says that you should be mildly bearish. That's really what it's saying, is you should be more mildly bearish than bullish in this market. But it is not definitive that we are in a total bear market move at this point. That being said, we expect there to be a little bit of resistance once we get up into the area of maybe 307, 308 here on the Qs. Now, today was an up day, but I want you to take a look at the heat map. Now, I love this heat map because it shows the market weighting of each stock. Take a look at how big Apple is. It is huge. Apple, Google, Amazon, Microsoft really didn't do anything today, and with Apple and Google actually dragging it down. Look at how much that counts for the market. If these stocks were up today, we probably would have been up 1.5% on the day, but we didn't. But you can see solid grain in financial, healthcare, semiconductors, consumer cyclical. There's just solid grain in those areas. Everything else was fairly mixed. So let's take a look on the charts and see where we are now. What is our outlook going forward? Now, we had a -2 outlook on the week. The first 2 days of this week looked a little bit sketchy, but we actually held the gains yesterday and we came up a little bit today. Look, we're going to move to a 0 here, thinking, okay, we're probably going to have more of a 0 week than a real weak market action. Now, we are trading up to this 50-period moving average. Now, look, if you say, hey, Rob, that is touching or really close to touching that 50-day moving average, I'll agree with you. And so if you want to take your -2 and say, hey, that 50, it's no longer clearly below the 50, and move to a -1, I think that's very fine and very prudent. If you want to stay at -2, that's very fine and very prudent. It's still kind of the same thing, saying, hey, you know what? It's mildly bearish in this marketplace right now. Once we get up above the 50 and we hold it, then we can go to a more neutral, and then we'll just follow the market where it goes based on the technicals. Let's take a look at a few trades here. This first one was one out of the Wednesday midweek trading room that Joe held live with our traders. This is where our traders come and share all the trading ideas they have with the rest of the group. Now, this is one of a nice bull pullback. We've got a nice uptrend here, and we came down to the lower trend line. The trader said, hey, once we get a little bounce off that, looking to go long. Okay, so look, we did get our little reversal candle yesterday. Today's candle isn't a great confirmation candle. We would have loved to see a green candle, but technically speaking, we had a higher close than the prior day. So this is a confirmation candle. It's not a great one. And I don't think you can really say it's going to run all the way up to the top of this next trend line up to somewhere around 35, 36. But I think a target of 30, 31 is very reasonable on this CTRA. Another trade I've been watching is the SunPower SPWR. We have a nice bull flag pattern. So we had that huge run from 16 all the way up to 26. And we've basically just been in a little ABC correction pattern. And once we broke out here yesterday, and especially when we broke out and held this prior high back here, this thing's got a ton of momentum. Take a look at the volume. The volume is saying, hey, there's a lot of people piling into this one. Look, this one is a fast mover, so we like to trade these with spreads to where we can cut down some of our risk. I don't see any reason why a 30 target is unreasonable on this one. This is SunPower SPWR. Looking at some sideways stuff, the sideways stuff has actually been doing really well lately. And so here's eBay. You can see here eBay was down here at 42 in the summer. It rallied all the way up to 50, came down. And now here we've drifted down. Now we're down closer to the bottom of the range. These moving averages are telling you everything you need to know. They have just flattened out. They are flat. This is what we like to see when we look at sideways stuff. So I'm looking at some butterflies or some condors on eBay, and really I think it's going to be slightly bullish since we are getting a little bit of support down here in this lower area. I want to use 45 or maybe even 46 as the middle of my butterfly, which will give you a risk graph somewhere here, 46 is the middle, and then you get to decide, hey, do I do the 42, 46, 50s, or do I do a different ratio than that? But that's going to be the trade here on eBay probably for the next 7 days. Just going into next Friday's options expiration. On the downside, another trade from our traders on the Wednesday session. This is WELL, Well Tower, and our trader called it great. He called for a short, and you can see that this thing was down 1.67% on the day, and it is just hugging this low base. And today was a great candle in the fact that it said on an up day, it didn't want to go higher. On an up day, it wanted to go lower. Tells you we're likely going to break down the low of this base. I think a quick, easy target of 75 is very simple. I'd be taking a look at something like 75, 77, bear call spread, probably bring in about $1.20 in a credit. You've got 80 cents of risk, a very safe way to play this WELL. So my outlook for tomorrow is we're likely going to have a fairly quiet day. We've had a lot of energy. We've had a lot of a big bounce off the bottom. And I think going into a Friday, I don't think people have the real appetite to be actively taking huge new positions tomorrow. I think tomorrow we're going to kind of whimper out of the week, and I think the week will end up being fairly flat, maybe slightly higher on the week, and then I think next week trading will begin more in earnest. That being said, we do have a few things on the calendar that tomorrow could give us a little bit of movement. We have 2 central bank governors speaking. Governor George and Governor Waller speak in the morning, and that could actually cause some volatility in the markets if they are much more hawkish or much more dovish than the market expects. If we get through that period with no real big movement in the markets, I think we just whimper out through the close. I think it's a very boring day, and I think you should all just pack it up and have a great weekend, and we will come back on Monday. That is the Market Roundup for today. Thanks for joining me. Take care, everyone. Goodbye.